afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the PD Coordinators webinar. Today is May 10th, 2018, and I am Olga Escamilla, your moderator, and Harriet Smith will be our presenter for today. I just wanted to give a few reminders about responding to everyone in the chat pod. So that is something that if you click on your chat box, and you look down to where it says send to, you will have to manually change that to everyone in that little square. So be sure to change that to everyone when you're typing in any questions that you might have throughout the presentation so everyone can see it. We also have information about expanding the view of your screen. If you're having trouble viewing the PowerPoint, what you would do is you see the green arrow pointing to the circle. There are two diagonal arrows. If you will click on those, that's going to expand you to full screen and you'll be able to see the presentation better. At this time, I would like to welcome Harriet as our presenter for the day. Take it away.
Hi, everybody. I'm covering for Deb, who's got a bad cough, so just talking very much sets her off. Hope you all are doing well. We've got a lot to cover in this meeting, and we don't want to keep you beyond an hour if we can help it. So as we go along, there will be a few Q&A slides to remind us to stop for questions, but don't hesitate to put your questions in the chat box and address it to everybody. That way, as we go along, Olga can interrupt us if we need to stop and address questions before we move on to another section. So first, some announcements. Olga, this one's yours.
That's me. So just a little bit of information about our upcoming Workforce Wednesday. Our topic is going to be getting to know workforce language with Christina Mason. It's about learning the new language of workforce or just getting more familiar with it if you're already familiar with it at this point. Registration is on the PD portal. So join us on May 23rd for our Workforce Wednesday.
Okay, and Tracy.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to make the next few announcements, and the first one is about the next Monday, Manager Mondays, which is Monday, May 14th from 12 to 1 on Recruit to Retain. And we have three presenters with us, Brenda Schofield, Sylvia Uralugo, and Christopher Sheffield. And these are folks that have been identified by TWC as doing recruitment in very creative ways. And so they're going to share what they do and give you some recipes, if you will, on how they've come about up to their process. So the registration is available on the portal. I see already that we have a bunch of people registered, and so we hope that you'll brown bag it with us that day and join the webinar. Yes, thank you. So the next announcement, we still have room for the ICA TOT next week in Pasadena at San Jac College, if anyone is interested. I am getting requests for another TOT to be set up for this, and I will do that probably sometime in the summer, and we'll look to have that maybe in the Dallas-Fort Worth area or Austin area to meet the needs of further over in other parts of Texas. So look for another announcement. We'll work on that soon. There's just a lot going on this summer, as you'll see in some of the slides coming up. But we will have another one in case you cannot attend this one. But as I said, there's still room in the ICA one. Okay, so the next training of trainers, after Memorial Day, we've got the Best Literacy Training of Trainers and the Best Plus 2.0. Both of those still have room in them as well, although we are really getting more registration than I thought we would have at this point in the year, so that's great. You as the PD coordinators need to register folks or assign them, and if you have trouble, just email me. I'm finding some glitches with this Best Plus and Best Literacy TOT, so just feel free to email me and I can assign whoever you choose to attend to those trainings. I just want to share with this one real quick, we are getting to Cal is going to train some master trainers for Texas for Cal. So what this means is we'll probably be able to offer the Best Plus 2.0 TOT more than once a year because we will have our local state folks able to do the training, which is a whole lot cheaper than Cal charges. They're quite hefty charge. There still will be the $500 fee, and it will still have all Cal will still follow all the post training requirements. But we feel good about this because, as I said, we'll be able to offer this more than just once a year with our folks doing it. Okay.
Tracy,
Yes.
there's a comment and then a question. So the first one is from Thelma Johnson, and she said
Okay.
she would be happy to host the ICA TOT later this summer.
Okay. Thanks, Selma.
And then Tara has asked if you please clarify if attendees receive the hotel information for Best Plus TOT training via email when they are nominated by the coordinator.
Yes, Tara, that's a good question. They should get a reply, an email stating that they've been registered with the hotel list. It's also housed under resources in the portal if that participant goes into the event from the learning calendar and they go to that event. The hotel list is there as a resource for them to pull down as well, just in case they didn't get the email. Just a point of interest here, we're finding that folks change their emails, and sometimes emails bounce back. I'm dealing with a couple of those issues today, and so if they didn't get an email, have them check in their transcript, and it will show that they're registered, and they should be able to get the hotel list. Or email me. I'm always glad to send it if I need to. Good questions, and thanks, Thelma. I will write that down. Okay, so the next announcement, we're going to have a TABE 1112 informational webinar May 24th, 2 weeks from today, at 2 o'clock from 2 to 3. Mike Johnson, who is the National Director for Sales with DRC, is going to kind of give the same presentation he did at TABE and at Taylor and COABE a little bit. But I've asked him to go over the major changes, but also address, give some guidance about the order form and what local programs might need to purchase. Because the order form, if anyone has looked at it, it's very daunting. It's like lengthy, 2 pages. It's a lot more complicated than it was for 910. So I asked him just to kind of give some guidance for programs if you haven't ordered products yet. So PD credit won't be given for this webinar since it's informational, and you'll join by the same way you do today, the PD coordinator. And I sent out, or Harriet did, or Beth, somebody sent out an email to a couple of listservs today with the announcement, and we'll send out another one as well. So we don't put this on the PD portal calendar because it doesn't generate PD credit. So we'll just remind you a couple more times before the 24th. I believe we're going to record it, however, so that folks can listen to it either. So who says they didn't get it?
Can I stop
Yes.
for a minute? So we have Denise Johnson asking, how do you apply for Cal Trainer of Trainer?
Well, Denise, we've already identified some folks that we had very few we could choose, and we've already identified some folks. So we've kind of already done that process.
Okay, and then the other question is from Kay Brooks. Can we submit questions ahead of time for Mike to address?
You know, Kay, that's a great idea, and I think that would be a great idea. Absolutely. Mike and I he's become my new best friend, I think, and every day we're emailing, and I would be happy to take questions, and then he could be prepared to answer them. You know, he's going to, that's what my hope is that he can answer some questions, and there's a lot of moving parts still going on with TABE, like some things like the scoring guide, for example, have not been printed in book form yet. So there's still a lot of moving parts with them. The times are still going to be revised down, but we're waiting on the NRS to give approval for that. And we don't know for sure when that's going to happen, and he doesn't either. So Kay, I think that's a great idea, and if you want to email me questions for Mike, please do so, and I'll make sure he gets them. Um, and when he and I do our practice run next week, I'll make sure he has the questions.
Okay, Tracy,
Good question.
there's another question.
Mhm.
Risa says, will Mike be able to answer questions? Did we answer that question?
I think we answered that question.
Okay, so then,
Yes.
okay, then there's another one. If
Okay.
a TOT, maybe a trainer, was trained with the old Best Plus, do they need to be trained with 2.0?
No, that's a great question, Ileana. Um, Trainers should know how to train about test administration. The test administration for BEST has not changed. Um, and anyone who is a current Cal certified BEST Plus trainer would have received back, I think we transferred over to 2.0 2 years ago, would have received updated 2.0 materials just like your program uses updated 2.0 materials too. So no, there wasn't a recalibration of for Cal trainers. So, and so
We,
Ellie, okay. I'm sorry, Olga. I see. I'm looking in
there,
the chat pod too.
Ileana said, sorry, going back to Best Plus. But then there's
Okay.
another question, and
Okay.
I want to remind everybody, if you will please change in your chat pod the send to, please change that to everyone so that everyone can see your questions. We do have one that says, can you ask Mike specifically to go over the scanner options for local scanner and the difference between the ScoreEase answer booklet and the scannable answer document?
Okay. Yes. Can somebody? I'm sorry. I'm trying to make notes and write and read the chat pod.
I'll make a note of it.
Can we put my email address in the chat pod, and then folks, if you would please just shoot me an email with your requests, questions, and I will be glad to get them to Mike. Can we put? I mean, I can put my address in there, email address. Sorry, I could do that myself. But I'll do that after I finish talking. Okay, great thoughts, y'all, on this informational webinar. And truly, I just got him to commit to doing this, and he's willing to do it. And like I said, there's still like moving parts everywhere. Okay, so here's another big announcement. We are having TABE, Texas Style TABE 1112 Training of Trainers in 6 locations in June. I've tried my best to get them kind of around the state a bit. In trying to put this together quickly, and I so appreciate the folks who've been willing to very quickly get a room for us to host this training. And so the registration should be available soon. I'm getting the requests done and the fine details like room numbers and all that stuff, and that announcement should come out probably next week for registration in to these TOTs. I just want to mention that this is a recommended format. It is not a required format from TWC programs. The adult ed assessment guidance is that new staff should have 6 hours of TABE training. And if your program wishes to create their own TABE training, that's fine too. We don't go over in extensive detail about online, but the target audience is new teachers and what TABE is about, how TABE works, what the scores look like for each different level. And there are big changes with 1112. Like the direction booklets are different for each form, for Form 11, Form 12, and each level. And there's multiple choice answers. There's a lot of differences in this test. So again, this is just a format that we recommend, and we provide all the training materials, but you don't have to use this for your local program. But we welcome anyone who wants to attend that is familiar with TABE already, would be my preference. PD coordinators will need to assign staff that you choose to come to this as well, and we'll have binders of sample materials that the participants won't be able to take home, but that we'll use during the training so that everyone can see all of the products if you haven't ordered them just yet. Okay, is it free? Eliane, yes, these TABE trainings are free. Just paying your cost to travel will be what the local program needs to do. And we'll probably schedule some more in July and August. I just literally am running as fast as I can to try to get these going, and then we'll look to the new program year to do some more. And Denise asks, will we have the option of replicating the answer sheets? Well, that's a question I don't have the answer to, Denise. Can you send me an email? Because that's going to be a tough one. Yeah. Okay. Any questions? I think that's all of my announcements. I will quit talking, and I'll put my email address in the chat pod, and please just email me questions and thoughts for the webinar and any other questions you have. Thanks, y'all.
Thanks, Tracy. Now we just have a quick announcement about the upcoming regional symposiums of the Literacy Texas project. So Paula, do you have anything you'd like to just quickly go over about these that are still ahead?
I just want to remind folks that now the El Paso Literacy Texas seminar is going on this week in El Paso, of course, but there's one on the May 19th in Waco. So if you know any programs, this is a totally free, very informative literacy symposium that you could get them to attend. That'd be great. We have 50 signed up right now. Now, Literacy Texas is in August 6th through 8th. It is in Waco, Texas, and I am going to put down 2 links. One link is for registration and hotel details for the Literacy Texas conference. The other is they are still wanting about 4 or 5 more proposals, and it's going to be a proposal link. So I'll do that now. Thank you.
Thanks, Paula. Okay, and this was a suggestion of Krista's, I believe, this announcement about assessment training during the summer months. Now, this is not related to TOT. This is if you're a program that you don't quite have the local capacity to meet your own local training needs for Best Literacy, Best Plus 2.0, or TABE, let us know so we can help you get that scheduled this summer. This is a good opportunity to get caught up on that. Contact your PD specialist. And Laura.
Okay. So this is just a reminder that we're going to have the PD Portal office hours coming in June. More information will be released about that on the portal when we have some details nailed down. Next slide. And then the ADA webinars that happened, I believe they were back in March. Anne-Marie put those together. Those are nearing the end of the post-production process, so those will be released into the portal in June as well. Next slide. Okay, so this one, external training. On the call last month, I know some folks were asking with the transcript reports about external trainings being added on there. It took a little bit of digging on the back end to figure out how to get that added on there. But at this point, basically, if you have been adding external training to transcripts for your team, or if you are aware of folks in your program adding external trainings, it has to be marked complete so that it'll appear on the transcript reports, because those are specifically configured to show only training materials that are complete. So that would just be a matter of going into the active section of the transcript. If you find an external training, to the far right of it, the big blue button will say Mark Complete. And we're going to send out an email blast probably early next week to everyone, just telling them that if they have added external trainings, they need to mark them complete as soon as possible. That way they'll show up on those transcript reports. And then a side step, Harriet, if you'll go back for a second. A side step from the external trainings that we forgot to put on this slide is we also discovered this week that there was someone who had a completed training that was archived for some reason. And if they have archived a completed training, it's not going to show up on the transcript reports as well. It gets really, really muddy trying to add that archived category onto the transcript report, so we've opted to leave it off. But if you find that there's a discrepancy between between what someone is saying they've completed and what is showing up in the external training, then our suggestion would be to check the archived section of their transcript. And I think they can move it out of the archived section. But if they can't figure it out and you need our help getting that unarchived, just shoot us an email at pdportal@tamu.edu. Okay, so the focus of the next two slides is really going to be on courses that have pre-work and post-work that's hand-graded. So the first one that we're going to talk about is an online curriculum, Adult Learning Principles. So Adult Learning Principles has that lesson plan at the end of the course that you have to complete to receive all of your credit. And those are hand-graded. We have folks who read the lesson plans, look at them, versus the assignment expectations, provide feedback if it does not meet expectations, and so there's sometimes some back and forth discussion about the lesson plans, and this takes time, and what we're trying to prevent here is getting to the end of June and our graders getting slammed with a lot of lesson plans to grade. So with that being said, we will be not deactivating, that's not the right word, but we're going to take the availability off of Adult Learning Principles starting on June 15th. That way, no one can register, no one new can register for it after June 15th. And then we just ask that if you have folks that are in Adult Learning Principles, we just ask that you really encourage them to get their lesson plans submitted sooner rather than later. So that we don't get slammed at the end of the program year. And then this next one, these are all face-to-face training events that have pre and post work as a part of their requirements. And same thing, we're going to take the availability off of these for requests starting June 1 so that we don't run into an issue with, again, getting to the end of June and getting slammed with a bunch of work that needs to be graded, because all of those courses, some of the pre-work and post-work is also hand-graded. And then, this is a report, I believe that this is referencing something that Deb and I are going to be working on. So one thing that we're going to try to do to help folks out is run a report that shows who in your program has work or has either curriculum or sessions that have pre and post work left to complete. So I know Deb and I have both been down and out and sick this week, so I don't know that report has been created yet, but we will get it to you guys sometime early next week. So
and Laura, I think when we looked at it, I want to say it was like 700 or 800 people who still had post work of some kind in any one of these courses. So we're going to try and concentrate on getting these folks completed. That's why we're turning the other ones off at that time.
Yep.
750, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of post work still out there. And then finally, we have worked long and hard trying to overcome some post-production issues with the webinars, and I think we finally got there. The following 5 webinars have been released into the portal. We've got the Educational Outcomes in Teams virtual training. That's the one that Mahalia did a number of times back in January and February. We grabbed the last one and recorded it and put it into a curriculum. The first 3 Workforce Wednesdays, and then the very first Manager Mondays. Those are all newly released. Again, ADA webinars are coming very soon, and hopefully we can keep a steady flow of webinars coming into the portal at this point. So enjoy.
So there is one question I saw in the chat pod about completing post-work after the start of the new grant year. How does that work if they've done part of a curriculum before in the last grant year and they complete the post? Can they complete the post or pre-work in the following year and have that count?
Well, that will be probably a Lori question. I would assume that we'd have to be able to count it in the new year, the day that I actually complete it, which would give us more reason to try and push our folks to get their work done in a timely fashion. But I can confirm that, Denise, with Lori. I don't think she's on the call today, but I can confirm that with her and get back with you.
Can you go back to that slide for just a second?
There is another question. It's from Tara. Can the PD coordinators get the list of individuals who need to complete the pre and post work prior to June?
Yes.
Yeah, that was that slide that we showed that Laura and I were talking about. We're going to send that list out to them. That's like that 750 people, and we have the report prepared by program, right, Laura? And when we ran it, it was quite hard.
One big report, and we were just going to grab.
We have to separate it out, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to separate it out and send it out to individual programs. So, Tara, I think you can expect that reasonably early next week.
If everybody just stays healthy.
Yeah, that's the trick around here.
Glenda, Glenda, you had Glenda?
Hey, can you hear me?
Hey.
Can you hear me
now?
Yes,
now we can.
Okay. Back on that other slide, I just want to give you a heads up on the educational outcomes in teams. This morning there was no hours if anybody completed it prior to today. Their certificate may not show the 1.5 hours that should be on there. After today, it should show up correctly, but if you get that certificate from someone and they completed it prior to today and it has no hours, it's still 1.5 hours in teams.
And I think, Glenda, correct me, can we go into their transcript and alter the number, and we can make that certificate say that?
We would have to manually download the certificate and alter it in Adobe.
Alter it that way, okay. So that can be done if we need to do that for your records, y'all, so just let us know. Okay, I think the next slide is me. And so in taking that adult learning principles out, we know that you've got some folks, and when we ran these reports last week just to kind of take a look at what programs have people that are missing stuff, and you know, there are some folks that are still missing some PAL. And so what we've done is put together, we just basically did a search ourselves in the search box and limited it to just PAL. And these are 6 that came up. The first 2 are a Tech and Tell on persistence that was by, I think it was Kim Gates from Florida, and she did a part 1 and part 2. They were really good Tech and Tells. And then Olga did one on moving beyond barriers. And then we've got the 3 links, Adult Career Pathways courses that we got the content from links, and then Glenda spent quite a lot of time making it a little bit more Texas with their approval. And we have those available, but I can tell you that we have had a little bit of feedback on the links ones that they might take a little bit longer than an hour. So if you'll give us maybe until the end of day Monday or possibly Tuesday, we're going to just kind of beta those one more time because we might want to change that to a little bit more than an hour. I haven't had an opportunity to look at them yet, but we did have that feedback, so we're going to try and do that. So those are the options for PAL, and they're each all 1 hour, if I remember correctly.
Before we move on, can we ask one more question? I think Mauro had a question about if a participant does not complete either the pre or post work, do they get credit? Do they not get credit for face-to-face?
That's been a big issue this year. You know, we've tried to stand firm in our efforts to bring some quality PD and not just one-shot trainings. You know, it's our policy not to award them credit, but you know, if that person for this year, I guess, you know, I'd have to get approval, of course, but, you know, I guess we could consider, if it's a local program decision, for you to award those hours, you can certainly do that. But I'll make a note and just confirm that. But we really want to, you know, work on making sure that our professional development is something that's meaningful to folks and not just I have an hour on a Wednesday night and I've got to get these hours in. We know how valuable our part-time teachers are, so we're trying to make it more meaningful for them. So I hope you'll try and support us in that distributed model of pre and post work that has to be done before and after training.
Okay, then we had another question from Denise Johnson, and she wants to know if they can email the list of enrolled teachers from the PD portal. So those teachers that haven't completed, if they can email them from the PD portal.
Yeah, we're going to do that. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and I will just talk through the next few slides. This is just kind of a unique opportunity that the National Links Professional Development Center is offering again this summer. There's going to be a series of 3 webinars coming up pretty soon. And they're not training per se, they're sort of an overview on some of the Professional Development Center, the National Links PD Center's offerings, that the webinars just help overview them, preview them, to make you more familiar with these great resources that you might want to use locally. So, let's see, they are coming up, 3 of them. One on May 16th on ESL Pro Study Circles. Now, that's a pretty intensive training opportunity, but if you're interested in that, there's the information and the registration link for that webinar on May 16. The next one will be Explicit Instruction in Adult Education on May 17. This one's an hour and a quarter. And again, you don't experience the training. This is an overview and how you might consider using this locally. And then the third one will be on May 22nd, Workforce Preparation Activities online courses. So you'll learn about those in this hour and a half webinar. And there is the registration link. So great resources from the National Links PD Center. So any questions up to now that we haven't already addressed?
They want to know if the sessions are free, the links.
Yes, those are free. I expect registration is somewhat limited, so you might want to jump on those if you're interested. I see Glenda commented on the ESL study circles. Okay, I see no other questions, so we'll move on, and Deb will talk about PD entry into teams.
Sorry, I had to spit out my cough drop. This is just a reminder that what we shared last month, as you get to trying to close out the year and enter your stuff into teams that you're responsible for, just remember, please, that we're responsible for entering those sponsored events that we sponsor and any PD portal courses into teams. Any local training that you do and any Tier 1 events that you do are entered by your own local program. Now, if you do have local trainings and you want your teachers to have all of that information in their transcript, that's where they would add something to external training. We have a How Do I video on that, but if you have any other questions about that, you can just email us. But just know that the local stuff that you do that we don't really have anything in, and any other Tier 1 trainings that you do are your responsibility for entering into teams. And just a reminder that we also enter the state and national events, such as these listed, and would appreciate if you guys would let us do that so it doesn't get too wiki-washy in the teams section. If you look at teams under TCAL, you'll see that sometimes there are multiple entries for one event, and that's from just us not giving you guys clear direction, and we apologize for that. So, but just know it's our responsibility. And I think if you go on the next slide, Beth is going to talk about some of the ways that we help with that to get you going. Beth, can you talk to this?
Certainly, I can. And Tracy, feel free to jump in if you have any comments. So we shared with you all on the PD coordinators discussion list prior to COABE a spreadsheet that we've used in some form or another for the last several years. If you have staff that have gone to a national training and want us to put it in teams, we need you to complete this form. So if you look at it, we're just going to go over it real quickly. The first column is the training provider and name of the conference, the activity name, which is the session, the name of the session, description, number of professional development hours, and the date. And you'll notice here when it says end date, only needed if the activity is over multiple days. So if they just went to 1.5 hour session, we've got to have that activity name and the description. And if we don't have the description, we can't put it in Teams. Go to the next slide, please. So this is an example of something that we got from a PD coordinator asking us to put into Teams. First column's fine. Activity name, some of these are okay, some of these are not. CASAS is not the name of a session at COABE. There were multiple sessions at COABE with the name CASAS. Financial literacy was not the name of a session. There was an entire strand at COABE on financial literacy. So it makes it really hard for us to find the information that we need and to get it into Teams for you. And again, we need to have those descriptions so that we can get it into Teams. And in this instance, they put the begin date and end date of the conference. What we actually need is the actual date of the session. Okay? Tracy, do you have anything you want to add to that?
I just wanted to share that the reason the description is important is because we have to assign the training classification to that session. So whether it's PAL or literacy or other or assessment, but we need that description to help us make that decision. And the same would go for some of the webinars that we're getting requests to enter. It's been a little tricky to go back into I'm going to have to try the COABE repository because I know it's hard to get the descriptions for some of those webinars, but anything you can do to help us with that, because it's like putting a puzzle together and missing pieces. It just takes a lot of time for us to get them in if they're not correct, as Beth says. So there's a lot of moving pieces there, and we appreciate your help.
So just a reminder that, your staff PD stuff is finished by June 30th. Please let us know how we can help. Tara, I was replying to, but I might as well say it. I do see your point about the face-to-face training being completed in that particular grant year. This has been an issue for us for a while in our attempts to kind of push forward with distributed learning. So we are, it's a valid issue, and we're going to talk to TBC and maybe come up with some other ways of making that happen. So we'll get back to you guys. So hopefully you all have a plan by now on, it sounds like it, talking to some of you on the phone and email, that you've got a plan for getting everybody done. We did have a program that told their folks that they needed all their PD done by, I want to March or April, but didn't let us know, and we had a lot of folks on that weekend scrambling, and we normally don't work weekend hours, and we want to be able to provide that customer service. So if you do some sort of an ultimatum out of a local program decision to do PD by a deadline, if you'll please let us know, or if you have a training where you're scheduled to have your people get online to create the portal accounts, those are also manually approved. So if you could give us a heads up, we can make sure we have proper staff on board to get those accounts approved. That happened once too on a Saturday. I was looking for something else and popped on email and saw about 30 approvals, and we want to be able to meet your needs. So just remember that. Give us those heads up when you think it's meaningful for us too. Tracy came up with a really cool PD opportunities online for free list. If you're looking for some other stuff as well, please remember that's in the PD Coordinators Community of Practice. And, if you've got your June trainings planned, just make sure that you let your PD specialist know in enough time for us to get those copies made. As you can imagine, it's going to be probably busy in June. And remember that we won't want you to do those pre and post work trainings. So just make sure you contact your PD specialist early to plan those face-to-face trainings. Does anybody have any other questions, Olga?
There was one question. There was one question from Mauro. He says, am I correct? All PD needs to be posted before June 30th, not just taken by June 30th for PD credit.
Yeah, you've got to have documentation that the PD has been completed by June 30th.
But
that was
I think he's talking about entry into Teams. So I think in Teams you have up until like
July.
That's a that's not
July
a
15th,
me.
yeah.
That's a Tracy issue. Yep. Thank you for clarification.
Yes. So you have that until that final DSO is due, which is usually July 15th. You have until then when they lock down the years. July 15th, yeah.
And then we did have a statement by Thelma. She said that they give their staff from July 1 to spring break to finish any of that pre and post work, or basically their PD in general. She said it gives them a buffer between spring break and June to send out reminders so that people can get their PD completed.
Yeah. Yeah, it works for some, but many ignore the deadlines anyway. Yeah, sadly, some of our best teachers are part-time, and they just don't have a lot of free time, and, they're doing their best to do what they love to do and train. But, with the PD requirement, I know it's a struggle for them, and they get frustrated. Believe me, we get a lot of phone calls with folks frustrated, and, we're doing our best to try and meet their needs and figure out the best ways to navigate the portal, and we're constantly changing and looking and doing. And so when you have those frustrated teachers, please send them our way so we can try and help them.
Okay, if that catches us up on questions, Beth is going to update us on content standards.
Thank you, Harriet. I just wanted to kind of give you guys an idea of where we are on the content standards rollout project. We've been at this since April of last year, and we have our last webinar with your instructional coaches tomorrow afternoon. We've had three sets of follow-up webinars after our last face-to-face training at Taylor. So somebody had posed a question to us, so what happens now? Does this content standards just go away? Well, no. If you look at your new RFP, there are several places actually, but two that I wanted to point out, where we talk about the Texas Adult Education and Literacy Content Standards. One is that there is an instructional lead in your program that's at least 20% of their time spent as the instructional lead. And also when it talks about the AEL instruction that needs to be happening in your program, again, we're talking about continuing content standards-based instruction in your programs. So we're going to still need the support of those instructional coaches. Next slide. So in other words, content standards are not going away. But one of the things we also recognize is that we do have a lot of part-time teachers. We have a lot of turnover. So we need to have some things in place for when you have new teachers coming into your program. So what we're going to do is we're working on 3 online courses that will be self-paced and in the portal for any new teachers that you have coming into your program. One on unpacking standards, one on lesson planning and backward design, and one on curriculum gaps, coaching strategies, and effective feedback. And those 3 are based on all of the work that we've done over the last year. Then the other thing that we wanted to do is to have a trainee of trainers that will probably take place in August of this year and pull from our current pool of instructional coaches some trainers so that when you need a training on content standards-based instruction, we've got a cadre of people that we can go to provide that for your program. So we will be pulling those people from the current coaches, and there will be an application process to apply to be part of that training of trainers. And then we're also currently piloting a 3-hour session on lesson planning with the Texas Content Standards. So that will be one that will be available to you. We're beta testing it right now and making some adjustments to it, and then it will be ready for you to request, and that is a face-to-face training. And that's it, Harriet. Does anybody have questions on content standards?
We don't have any questions at this time, but we do. If Laura, would you like to talk about the item at this time?
Yeah, so I just wanted to bounce back for a minute to the educational outcomes webinar. The way we set up the curriculum for the webinar is the same way we set up the curriculum for the live webinar, which is with the required pre-work, and then the webinar, and then there's a post-test. But the pre-work does not award any hours on this one. It's just they can either take the test, and if they pass that, then they can go ahead onto the webinar, or if they don't pass the test, then there's a 1 or 2 webinar videos for them to watch. But I realized what Glenda was talking about earlier, it was the pre-work where it was showing up as 0 hours because we were not awarding credit for that, the prerequisite on that course. So I just wanted to throw that out there real quick before everybody, people started directing their folks towards it. And I did look at the courses in the portal, and I made sure to put pre-work before the pre-work course, just so people can distinguish easily between which curriculum is the pre-work and which one is the actual webinar.
Okay, I think we're ready to move on to Tech and Tell updates from Anne Marie.
Thank you, Harriet. Hi, everyone. I just want to update everybody on some things that are happening with the Tech and Tells. And we do have several Tech and Tells that are in the works to become available in the PD portal soon. And again, you know, great work to the post-production team. It does take a lot of work to convert all of these webinars. So I just want to give a shout out to everybody on the post-production team. So the Tech and Tells are going on vacation for all of July. And so there will not be any webinars in July. And so what will be happening after that is the Tech and Tells are going to be returning in August, but on a different schedule. And I will explain that a little bit. We're going to go to a twice-a-month schedule, so the specific dates will be announced, hopefully far in advance or in advance enough for you to let your teachers know about it. And so what I would like to do, what we have been doing, is do a part 1, part 2 type of a format where the tech tool or the website is introduced the first week, and then in part 2, the presenter digs in deep into the topic. And we are right now going to do a Thursday evening and a Friday morning. I do see that Deb is asking me a question about that. Thursday evening attendance has been very, very low for many months, actually. And so if any of you have ideas as to why that is, please email me. I'd love to hear from the PD coordinator. So right now, we're going to stick to the Thursday evening, Friday morning, but come, you know, after a month, if I see that the attendance is down, we're going to go to just Friday mornings from 11:30 to 12:30. So again, the Tech and Tells will be in June. So let's go to the next slide. And this is what's coming up. So right now in May, we have Ashley doing a phenomenal refresher on formative. So if your teachers are needing those PD hours, Ashley is on deck this week to do formative refresher part 2. Part 1 was last week, and it is brand new. It's brand new material. She has presented on formative before, but the website is updated, and she has new things to share. And this is awesome because Texas is actually on the front lines for formative because of the work that Ashley Winkle has done working with formative. So then I am excited to let everyone know and remind everybody that Liz Moya will be presenting on EMAs on May 17th and 18th, and then again May 24th or 25th. for part 2. And this is a tech tool that is great for PD coordinators and working with your staff and providing information. So I'm so excited for these. So stay tuned for that. Registration is going to be available in the PD portal soon. Okay, so the June Tech and Tells are in development. And once again, I want to encourage the PD coordinators real quickly to email me if you have a tech rock star in your program, or if you have a teacher that you think would be great for the Tech and Tells. Right now, Train PD has a great cadre of Tech and Tell presenters that present, but I'm always looking for the heartbeat of the field, which is the teachers. So if you have teachers that you think would be excellent, let me know. But we do have some exciting presentations in the works. So June. All right. So the next thing I want to talk about is that Tracy did create that wonderful resource sheet with professional development opportunities. And one I would like to talk about, which is actually listed, is the Center on Technology and Disability. Now, if we have time, we are going to, I'm going to share the website with you, but what I want to really stress is that this is a website that provides free, I'm going to say that again, free webinars that focus on assistive technology to help students across the lifespan who have a disability. And so if you go to this website, you can click on the icon right there that says webinars, and it will bring up a list of free webinars. And I sent out a listserv announcement on the Adult Education and Literacy Instruction listserv yesterday on all of the webinars that are coming up that focus on reading disabilities and assistive technology. So if you have teachers that would like to attend these webinars, I highly encourage you. I do know, and I want to give a shout out to Navarro College, I do know that several of their students or one of their students really worked with the JAN website, Jobs Accommodation Network. This is very similar. There's a lot of resources on here, but for teachers. And once you attend the webinar, if you attend the live webinar, they will give you a certificate of completion. If they watch it after the fact, I'm not sure, but again, the resources are phenomenal and the PowerPoints are downloadable. So if you have any questions about that, let me know. I'm going to go ahead and put this website in the chat pod because I don't think we have time to go there. But I will also tell you that they've got several webinars on transition to post-secondary and assistive technology for the workplace. So it's a valuable site. It's one of my favorites. Okay. Move next slide.
And Anne-Marie, there.
Yes, ma'am.
Just checking. We've had a couple of questions about whether they get certificates when they complete these.
They will get a certificate when they complete them for the live. If they attend the live webinars, they will get a certificate. I'm not sure about the recorded webinars. So once again, I just sent out an announcement, and I'll send it out again on the PD coordinators. There are 2 coming up on reading disabilities in May. Next week and the following week on reading, and one on what is assistive technology. So yes, they get a certificate if they attend the live ones, and then they can apply it.
And I believe this would come in the category of a national event that the PD coordinator would request Train PD to enter the activity into Teams.
And I believe that it would be up to the program, right, Deb, to decide what professional development hours it counts. I would believe this would be literacy. Yeah,
it would be a local program decision. They just have to, whatever they decide, they have to be able to back it up with the description of the training to match the literacy definition or the PAL, or it could be other. And again, this would be one of those things where if they want to have their transcript complete, they would add this certificate as external training.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. And if there's any other questions, just let me know. But in closing, I'll just remind everybody and let you know that I will send out all of those announcements on the PD coordinator listserv. I think that would be good, right, Deb, to send those out? Because I'm not sure how many people are on the Adult Education and Literacy Instruction listserv, the PD coordinators, so we'll send it out again.
Okay. Any questions, Olga, that you've seen pop up in the chat box?
Well, I just thought maybe if, Anne-Marie, you posted those in the PD coordinator community of practice, they would be there.
I could do that too. I'll post the link. The Center for Technology and Disability is in the Adult Education and Literacy Instruction community of practice, but I'll go ahead and put all of that in the PD coordinator community of practice. Thank you, Olga.
Thank you. And I didn't see any other questions, Harriet, at this time.
Okay. Well, then we are done with a few minutes to spare. Thanks for joining us today. And don't hesitate to email us with whatever questions you didn't get to or that pop into your head after we hang up. Thanks for joining us. And goodbye, everybody.